Hi, this is Suman, and with my co-author Devjyoti Das, I bring forward to you an efficient designing of mockups using artificial intelligence as a topic for our paper. To start with, we'll look at the agenda that we are going to follow as part of this paper. We'll look at the problem statement along with the title and keywords, a basic note on usability engineering, relevant tools and papers that have been explored in this area, motivation and importance that got us here to do this paper from an industry standpoint. We'll properly look at some literature survey, and then we'll proceed with the proposal that we have as part of an idea and the algorithm, and the conclusion and impact that this paper brings for an industry perspective of mockup designing. So the problem statement is for legacy applications that have evolved over the years and depending on user behavior have changed significantly. So driving down on the motivation and importance will clear some points. We started with the discussion of creation of a new app. How does it start? Every time it is not about building something from scratch, but the way an application has evolved over the years. How do we refactor and look at unmaintainable codes, because there are some codes which are there from 2000s and need change for the new application to be built. How do we look into that with the new application stack after all? So will this help in fast tracking the software development cycle is something also that we were interested in. And when we are looking at fast tracking, we definitely are looking at the reduction in cost to company or CTC. And at the end of the day, it is very important to maintain consistency for all apps in a particular business suite. Can we achieve that is something that we were really interested to look at. And finally, we are always motivated to come closer to the customer, having empathy. So can we do this? And finally, coming with fast tracking, can we have faster solutions expected on cloud? And in a world with startups, can we really stay in pace? So before we move on, we start with exploring some title and keywords that will help us understand this topic better. What is a mockup? A mockup is basically the first-hand image that we get of a web application even before we start coding the same. So it is a pictorial or visual depiction of the user interfaces. And these mockups are created on the basis of some principles, some major principles which come under the subject of usability engineering. It's a discipline that is being taught in colleges and governs how user interfaces are designed. But how do we make applications user-friendly? There are 5 features or functionalities or characteristics rather that needs to be adhered to. One is effective, efficient, engaging, error tolerant, and finally easy to learn. It is always very much appreciated if an application comes without a user manual and it is intuitive for the user to learn without reading a single statement. But why do we need to generate mockups for existing applications if they are working perfectly fine? This paper, after looking at the literature survey, talks about how we can reduce certain steps here and make it easier fast track development for softwares. Now, literature survey, we looked at some existing tools like Balsamiq or Azure, which are used to develop mockups, but they are manually done. As I mentioned, there's Balsamiq, Azure, SAP Build, and Visio, which are commonly used by UX designers to develop a mockup, but manually. We also looked at certain papers. One of them is highlighted here, which is a machine learning based prototyping of GUI for mobile apps. We were very much interested in the work done by Kevin Moran, Carlos Bernal Cardenas, and Michael Cusio for their work. So setting up the base about why we went towards this. This is a UI from 2000 when Yahoo had too many details around its page. This was Google way back in somewhere around 2000, we see a copyright here. The Yahoo today looks like this from what we have already seen. A much changed interface with just a search bar and a few tabs. Similarly for Google, although it was clean long back as well, today Google looks like this. Search bar and a nice logo. So the idea that we are proposing is used for generating mockups on the fly. So the usage of convolutional neural network model to provide effective and efficient models for analyzing and predicting visual imagery. Now, before we proceed, it is already known that there are templates available for designing user interfaces used by different organizations, whether it's SAP, Microsoft, Google, Facebook. They have their all templates. But how do we select a particular template depending on the use case? We use user data and put it into a system which uses convolutional neural network, and based on the priorities assigned with respect to the user behavior over the years for the usage of the existing application, we come up with a new mockup for the new application of the same use case. So data set collected over a period of time to understand end user behavior is what we are looking at. Solution consists of standard up-to-date templates. As I mentioned, every company has a consistent template so that users of those companies don't feel problematic in terms of using those applications. So same templates are being used or fed to the system in order to come up with a new UI. So depending on the concepts, it has input fields, a number of input fields which goes inside a hidden layer and outputs a set of fields with highest weights, which means it gives us the fields which are important and have been used by users over time. The hidden layers are not just about the user data, but also comes from functional side where the product owner of a particular product provides their insights as well on the necessity of having an element in the user interface. Similarly, based on the output of set of fields, we look and we feed the same controls back into a hidden layer which searches for the best templates available and gives us the output as a flow of templates. So what do? We analyze weights of field controls gathered over time. Using supervised learning for the template class, we'll be able to come up with the desired template, which is already available but can be customized for this particular application. We suggest a mockup or a flow of user interfaces as per a standard template. And also, if let's say a user is not convinced with a particular mockup, we go back using backpropagation methodology and create an alternative mockup for the user. So this is again a very common diagram that we know from basic convolutional neural network, where end user data is fed, and depending on day-to-day work history or user behavior, the final mockup is generated. Similarly, we have a depiction of the same. And how does it really resonate with the software development life cycle? Initially, we saw for a typical software development plan, when the effort was 18, the new effort after usage of such a system will reduce it significantly to 14. For specifications, the initial effort, if it was 18, it gives a new estimated effort to be 12. Similarly, for design, it becomes from 24 to 16. Although for implementation, we know that the mockup is already there, so the estimated effort for development still remains same. Although integration system has the same flow, it gives 16. But because we have already tested the same with the user at an early phase, the effort for acceptance and deployment goes down or reduces from 18 to 16. So ongoing lifecycle activities overall takes a major reduction from 120 to 115. So what can we conclude from this? It serves the demand for cloud-ready user-friendly applications, optimizes the time required for mockup creation, The initial time crunch, which takes a user experience designer to create a mockup for 2 months, can be reduced significantly by 40 to 45%. It reduces cost to company because the entire timeline required is now not required, and at the same time it allows the customer, or sorry, the organization, to come up with a user interface or a complete application in a much lesser time, and an early instant first round of validation by the customer or end user. So while we have this, there are other applications, as we saw, for Balsamiq or SAP Build, which takes in a mockup and generates ready-made code. So if we can realize this particular hypothetical idea into software, it results into an integration possibility with an SAP Build, which generates an auto-generated mockup to an auto-generated code, reducing the entire software development process to much minimal than what it is now. So that's all from this particular paper. This is Suman with Devjyoti Das from SAP Labs India, covering this hypothetical proposal for having an efficient mockup generation algorithm using artificial intelligence. Thank you.